Look at my daughter's face. Move your hands.
Hey, don't talk to me like that.
Like, your face is so swollen. What is wrong with you?
Nothing. Consider that off.
Okay, people. So now I think it's like April 9th. Sorry. No, it's not. It's May 9th, 2019. So here's the deal. Just hold on a minute. This is what we're going to do today. Okay. I bought some baby bottles. As you can see. I have more than that, people. And what I've been doing is I've been making juice for Amari. Mainly, right? I mean, obviously, Alea May gets to benefit from it, right? But because Amari can't chew food, I can't. It's not like I can really give him a whole piece of watermelon. Not that I can give Alea May watermelon and a whole piece at this point, but thing is, she's gonna grow and she won't be so dependent on being fed. She'll be able to feed herself, right? And not only that, she won't have digestive problems and all that other stuff where like constipation, you know, sets in and just whatever, right? So I'm like always in panic mode, right? Because, you know, it's a big thing when Amari doesn't go to the washroom, right? Because, you know, my grandmother, how she died is she had a history of like, I don't know, she went in for an operation one time to have some of her intestines removed, and apparently she died on the operating table, and the doctor came out and said something to my grandfather, you know, your wife has died, and this was out in the farms, right? And my grandfather, no. So he goes into the operating room and he started, Katie, you know, get up, wake up, Katie. She woke up, people. The doctor pronounced her dead, but my grandfather said, hell no. So anyway, she had already had problems, and then, you know, she lived, and she was like, I don't know, 82 or 86 finally, you know, by the time she went to the hospital because she was constipated, and it was difficult for her to do enemas for herself, right? And while I lived in Victoria, there was times I'd go over there and help her with an enema, right? You know, I regret leaving the island and leaving my grandmother behind, but in those days I was young, and then I had to leave the island because there was no opportunity for a young person, right? And unless you were highly educated, right? And the epitome of what was right in terms of, you know, the corporate world, right? So I went to Vancouver with my two kids. Ciera was 8 months old, and I was going to go start a company. That's why I went. No reason other than to start a company. I wanted to create a magazine and then feature my outfits in that magazine, and you know, build up a company that way, right? I wanted to feature the hot fishing spots throughout the, you know, interior and the coast and whatnot. But anyway, needless to say, my grandmother, I guess nobody helped her. And so she went to the hospital, and as she was sitting there waiting for the doctor, her intestines exploded because she was so constipated. So, you know, for me, that really disturbs me, right? Because Amari, what happens to him is because he doesn't move around very much, and, you know, and whatever, right? There's a pocket at the bottom of his anus in the inside that just pools. So that by the time he poos, it can come out bigger than a baseball, and it's like painful for him, and it's difficult, and you have to help him through it, and it can take hours, and, you know, and because it's just, so I'm always racking my brains in terms of, well, what are the most easiest digestible foods? You know, you don't want to compact them with this and compact them with that, because it's just going to pool anyway, and it pools even when you try and give him lighter foods to digest. It's still doing this pretty much the same thing, right? But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue to keep trying, right? In terms of balancing his diet, right? So this is where the idea of like juice, right? In terms of like watermelon, because watermelon is high in water, and that's what he needs because he doesn't like to drink water, right? And it's, you know, it's not a lot of sugar, right? In my opinion, and it's easy to digest. So the most affordable and economical way to provide that to him on a steady basis, this is what I'm thinking, right? On a steady basis is just invest into the bottles, because Amari will. I try and give him cups, you know, I'm going to keep trying to give him a cup, and hopefully as he ages, he'll outgrow the bottle. But, you know, just in case he doesn't, I want to be prepared and have a system in place so that when I die, right, Tisha will be able to follow up on it. So I'm teaching Tisha how to do this. I'm making her do it with me and telling her that when I die, you got to make sure that you keep this up with Murray. Now, whether you give it to him in a bottle or whether you give it to him in a sippy cup, you know, we'll cross that bridge later on when we get to it. But for now, he likes bottles. So I'll go off and I buy, you know, a big watermelon. It's expensive this time of year, but it's still cheaper to buy it as a whole watermelon versus a half. So $10 a watermelon. And the last watermelon one watermelon really doesn't get you very much in terms of juice and pulp, but it got me, I don't know, maybe 12 of this size, 12 of this size jars, plus whatever it was that we gave him like without freezing. And then in terms of pulp, you know, I don't know, the equivalent of like one of these to share between Amari and Alea May, because they like to eat it, and then half this size, 3 containers. So for $10, you know, that's but that's because the season is not in right now. Come summer, you get a watermelon for $5 or $6. That's when, you know, you want to make a whole whack. Which I'm not done buying baby bottles. And if you notice, the glass, I am moving Amari out of plastic into glass. So I spent like I don't know, I think it was like $130, $140 just on baby bottles in the last couple of weeks, as I'm planning to, you know, build on to having a steady supply to help him with his digestion, as well as to provide Alea May with, you know, the fresh juice. And because the thing is, if children grow up, and this is what I've learned with my own family and with my grandson Andre, if children grow up on Fucos with the artificial juice, even though they say they have no artificial flavor, they're still flavoring it with the Fucos, right? So if I make apple juice and say, here, Andre, drink the apple juice, he doesn't necessarily like to drink the apple juice because he grew up with the apple juice in a can that has Fucos in it. Whereas Amari loves the apple juice that I make, and he drinks it, and I drink it. I drink it for the nutritional value, because personally, I prefer the Fucos one. But that's only because I've been conditioned through however these companies market their products to you, right? It's like Heinz ketchup doesn't taste like any other ketchup except Heinz. It has that just right amount of whatever it is that they're putting in their ketchup so that you become addicted to that particular taste. Well, juices are the same thing. But Fucos is not good for you, right? And with this watermelon stuff, right, you don't have to add no sugar, none. So anyway, the camera's not flickering, but we know that this camera is like ready to go at any moment. And this is my last video basically on this camera. Now, I'll put this camera off to the side and, you know, keep it as an emergency if something should ever happen. But somebody is giving me a camera. Well, it's the person that's going to be the person who, it's her son. It's her son who is giving me a camera. And she is the lady that I'm sending the teapot to, that I have already mailed out the walnuts to Kitimat, up in that area. Up into the interior, right? But I'm glad I didn't send the teapot because I have this. Hold on. I found it in my cupboard. So, there it is. That's the accompanying, what is it called? Creamer. So, you know, she likes to watch my videos, and I was telling her that, you know, I'm doing juice for Amari, and when I get this camera, it'll be great because I won't have to, I can move it, I can grab it, I can move it, I can show you what I'm doing, right? I like those videos. I realize that these corporations that, you know, expect miracles from me in terms of being a lawyer, right? They don't understand what it's like to have your daughter, you know what, right? MURDERED, right? And then inherit a disabled child to boot. Right? Where, you know, you get panic attacks just trying to figure out ways to make his life bearable. It's not for you, it's for him, right? And to also make sure that when you're gone, he gets the same kind of stuff, right? Because that's important. So I'm hoping that my daughter will have the stamina after she does it with me for a few times. You know, because between two daughters, it would have happened in terms of Shimei being the mother to Amari, doing these things for him, her son, where, you know, it's going to be the auntie, right, that's going to have to do this. Because caregivers, like in terms of foster care parents and that type of stuff, you know, they don't necessarily think like the ones like us who actually look after the children that are born into the home, right? A caregiver, you know, oftentimes will take on children just for the money and will neglect the child, not with, you know, a full, you know, blatant, you can really tell, but, you know, they will just go with the food coast versus taking the time to do something like this. Right? But something like this, if you had money, and I'm going to end it on this note, and I'm going to get on with it, right? Something like this, with you, if you had money, and of course, I never have money, and anytime I've got a good idea, or I try and do something, it doesn't matter, people. You know, I've been put into some freaking box, you know, with those people poking those freaking, you know, stakes at me and spikes and, you know, pitchforks and all other shit, right? It's just been like that for a long time. But for anyone that wants, and you know, to have a little business idea, seriously, and you've got money to invest, you know, go off and, this is the way I do it, right? Well, I might do it one day, but probably not. So, you know, share the wealth, right? So what you do is you go off and you buy a whole bunch of these, right? Wholesale, all right? You know, go into a wholesale situation. And go off and make little sleeves that you can put them in. You know, little sleeves, right? With fabric, so that when you ready to freeze, you can do that. Or if you're in travel, you put your lid on and it can be in the sleeve. You can put it in your diaper bag, right? To protect it from breaking, to insulate it, to keep it warm or keep it cold. Right? And then you can market it in terms of like convenience for mothers that don't have time to go off and make the little sleeves for themselves. Right? You know, not everybody can sew, right? Because and then because it's what, green friendly, environmental friendly, you know, it's glass bottles, right? It's better for the baby, right? Or for the children. You could probably find some buyers on that. But you'd have to have a few $1,000s to invest in terms of making it a legitimate business. And time. Time is a big one, right? Which I don't have. So that's what I'm doing right now. So this is going to be the last video more than likely on this camera. It is 11:15 in the morning. I got all day to go. I bought these beautiful pears. Where are they? I don't know. They're around here somewhere. Like 5 bags. Oh, here we go. This is what's happening today. You see these pears? Oops. Pears are easy to digest. Helps to prevent constipation, supposedly. I've given Amari pears. At this point, it doesn't seem to be helping, but then they were mostly canned pears. So, because of the sugar that you add when you're canning, that could be a factor in terms of maybe not digesting so easily. So, I bought these, a whole bag, 30% off at like 5 bags, 6 bags downstairs in the fridge. So that's the goal for today, is to, I don't know about juicing them per se, because, pear juice tends to, it would go brown, right? But definitely pulping them up. I think I'm just going to pulp them up for the most part. I'm not even going to try and juice them. I'm just going to run them through a food processor, and then I'm going to then I'm going to put them into individual containers and freeze them that way. And that's only because those bags, which is a full bag of pears, I got for like $3.50 each. And I got like 5 bags or something like that. So that's what I have to do today, is the pears. Pears first. And then I've got meat in the freezer, or in the fridge, that I bought from the same store on sale, which is a lot of pork, right? So that I have to now go get my meat grinder, and grind it up, and then make little meatballs and patties or just whatever, so that, that will be an easy digestible food for Amari once it's processed, or whatever. It was on sale, right? And I like to buy food. That's my biggest crime in the century. Okay, people. I don't know. It's the next day. So what, May 9th or something like this? Right? 2019. So, as you can see, this is kind of what my yard looks like now. Right? Still early in the year. Rhubarb is ready. I got rhubarb in the front that's ready too. Anyway, I should be doing those pears today, but it's still early, so I think I'm going to come out here. Oh my God. See that little patch right there? I'm going to bring Amari outside. I'm going to sit in that little patch, pull out the weeds and the rocks in that little patch, get up into that patch, and I'm going to plant some stuff, because they're growing. Where am I? They're growing, but they're not getting in the ground. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, you'll see. Okay, so amazingly, this camera is behaving, but besides that point, as you can see, these are the purple beans, right? They're wanting to latch on to something. I have those ones, and I have more yet, right? Here, I don't know. This is something. I don't know what it is. I can't remember. You know how it goes with me. I put some more beans in there because whatever I planted, it got cold. Everything started to freeze. But as you can see, I think these are cucumbers. Cucumbers or squash. I got more. Right, and then here's more beans, and then I took some beans outside. And these are the purple ones. I started those ones first. And then those ones will be yellow beans down there because I just stuck them in, and they shouldn't die off because it's warm enough now, right? There was a freezing spell, and as you can see, here's a nice black walnut. There's a black walnut. All right, you gotta look at the leaves. Because English walnut, this could be an English, right? Because this is a black. So it's hard to say. It's still young yet, right? And look at this one. Look at that. It's all nice and green in there now. Right? And then I just seen one sprout up over here, people. Do you see it? Right? So anyway, as you can see, and this my landlady gave me. This is a squash that I gave to her in January or February or something. January, I don't know what it was. She was surprised that I came out with it because it was her favorite squash. And it was one that I had grown, right? I just hadn't eaten yet. And I told her to save the seeds and plant those. Plus, I had already saved some. Anyway, long story short, she came back with one of those seeds with that squash that I gave her in January or whatever it was. And she grew a plant, and she gave me one she has in her yard too, right? So this one wants to go in the ground, as you can see. Right? Oh, yes, and then I've got little beets over here. All right, they're going to start springing pretty soon. And then my son and my grandson went up in there and took over these beds and planted a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know what they're doing in there, but they're planting. Anyway, and as you can see, now I'm out by the greenhouse. Look at these guys just reaching for the sun. So I have to get them in the ground, right, people? And there's some Swiss chard. Right, and you can see the trees are just blooming now. Okay, so now I'm in the greenhouse. And as you can see, they're coming up. This is a English walnut. Coming up. Looks like an English walnut because the leaf is very big. Right. You can see, came up. Right. Came up. It's coming up. Right. There's one right there. Do you see it, people? Right there. That one's coming up. And then I cleaned up in there. You can see. Oh, nice. All right. And then we've got two in here coming up. There's one. There's one. This was just moss from when I brought in the black walnut, or actually no, I was trying to plant, what do you call it? Figs. It's over there. Didn't work. So anyway, I just put a bunch of nuts in there and took out the sticks because it worked for the nuts, but it didn't work for the fig. So yeah, you can see and then there's these ones here. I have to get into the ground. You can see. And I have some of this, which is an Asian vegetable, and it's kind of like a hot radish. So it's really, really good. And I've got some there, and I know where there is some more. So hold on. See, there it is again. Again and again. So that's good. Okay. Not too sure what the camera's like, but anyway, I think this is the squash my landlady likes. I think. So anyway, guess what I found? Can you see that? That's a little white oak tree. It was in here. So I'm going to put it in there. And there's those rocks, the gravel that my sick daughter brings to me. My vulnerable daughter who's being exploited out on the streets, people. I worry about her so much. I don't know what to do though. Right? Anyway, hold on. Another batch of something. Okay, I'm gonna finish this video. I've been out here all day, people. I don't have the stamina for this shit anymore. I don't know. I don't even know what that is. Anyway. Alright. All my trees. Growing, right? I was in here. You can see what I did. Cleaned up the pots. Gave them some cow manure. I never normally use it. Well, I've never used it, as a matter of fact. But I did this time, so we'll just see what happens, eh? Look at my daughter's face. Move your hands.
Hey, don't talk to me like that.
Like, your face is so swollen. What is wrong with you?
Nothing. Can you get that off?